Sean Ray for Digital Muscle Media. I'm sitting here with training guru David Kalick here at the Legions competition in Long Beach. And David, you've been around for a hot minute. You were actually a competitive bodybuilder for a good minute there, and now you are training and assisting athletes on their physical journeys. You got an athlete in the competition here this weekend. Is that what brings you to Long Beach?
Yeah, I was going to. Unfortunately, I was going to work with Daniel Alexander, who many of you know had passed away a couple weeks ago. So we're here today to honor Daniel. We will be tonight at the night show. And it was kind of surreal being backstage and seeing all the other guys. Daniel would have been backstage, of course, as we speak. 212 is about to go up here in about half an hour, so it's a little surreal, but we're here to honor Daniel and also see some of the other amazing athletes that are here today as well.
So let's put some things in perspective. Daniel won the USA middleweights, I believe it was?
Yes.
What year was that?
So that was 2017.
17, correct. Yep. And what happened after the 17 USAs? Did he go on to compete?
Yes, a little history real quick. So he, in 2015, he got fifth. In 2016, he got third, and then he actually finally won the class in 17. He won the class, he weighed 175, and he went on, he did his Legions debut here last year, his pro debut, cracked the top 5, weighing about 188.
Yeah. And so this was going to be his next show.
This is going to be his next show. He wanted a revenge here.
And you saw him how many weeks ago?
So I saw him literally the day before he had passed.
Which was how long ago?
Which was 3 calendar weeks from yesterday.
Okay, so we do know it seems like every time we turn around, there's a bodybuilder dying, and it's usually a heart attack or something. So take us through this, because this is a guy you knew, and the story that I heard was that he had a pre-existing condition regarding his heart that he didn't even know about before he expired. So tell me what you know.
So it seems to be coming to fruition, things we've been hearing along those lines. Evidently, the last couple of years, he had mentioned to some of his closer friends, he felt some weird flutters here and there. And I guess he never really brought it to some people around him who are his closest, probably because he probably thought it was nothing. He probably shook it off.
Doesn't a lot of bodybuilders, you get these little tics and feelings?
That's exactly right. And keep in mind, Daniel wasn't a 300-pound, mass monster, someone who's 300 pounds, huffing, puffing, bending over, tying his shoes.
Right.
He was very light in the off season. We're talking about a very minimal protocol.
Let me make that clear. Let me put some perspective on how we wound up here, because if I'm not mistaken, Matt Duval, a former national champion, had a heart attack. Daniel Seccaretti from Italy.
Yes. Yep.
Don Youngblood, a former Masters Olympia champion,
yes.
heart-related.
Yes.
It seems like there's a running theme with bigger bodybuilders, but
exactly.
This guy was not the biggest of bodybuilders.
That's exactly correct. And keep in mind, he literally never went above 207 pounds in the off-season. This is not a big bulk up kind of put on as much weight as we can. We're to the point we can't breathe and then chop it away for pre-contest. This is someone who stayed on purpose. We wanted him to be very low protocol for several reasons. And it is shocking, as you said, because usually as you said, we're looking at this for like the humongous guys.
Yeah.
So it's actually, when you see it happen to a smaller guy, it is more alarming and more surprising.
But what we find out in hindsight is that this was something we don't know that could have been prevented, but really was up to him to have gotten himself looked at medically. So in hindsight,
yes.
Do we take more precaution as bodybuilders or even as trainers that, I don't know, at what stage do you go to a doctor to get a medical checkup before a competition? Right, he was 3 weeks away from competing.
Yeah, it's funny because like blood work would show nothing. His blood work is pretty benign with everything, but I'm really recommending now, and I'm gonna have all my guys do it, whether they're a bantamweight or a master super heavyweight. I think what we do need to take away from this is that there's got to be the maintenance and or the observance of cardiac integrity. So in other words, I'm encouraging guys to, why not just go see, why not get a full cardiac makeup? It includes the imaging, the stress test, because you know what, better, it's a cliche, better be safe than sorry, because this could have been prevented. I'm assuming it could have been if he had gone and done some imaging. Yeah. And again, bodybuilders think, we all think, we're indestructible.
We don't want to see a doctor.
That's exactly correct. Yeah. And, we did get a text message from someone who's encouraging him, like, perhaps to go in. And he's like, no, they're just gonna pump me through electrolytes and ruin my look because I'm a couple weeks over. So I know the mentality, but guys, you need to bypass the mentality and know that, we're skin and bones and flesh.
This was a young guy. How old was he?
He was 30 years old.
30 years old. So most guys at 30 are not thinking about getting a cardiogram. but now it seems like it should be the first order of business
Yeah.
before you start dieting and training and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think it should be there. This way there's a point of reference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not only that, but I mean, you also want to, not only do I recommend getting it done before, launching on a pre-contest thing or whatever, but and actually get it done every couple of years.
Yeah.
Because the left ventricle can grow very quick. What's probably inevitable, what's going to come back from this in regards to Daniel, will probably be something like cardiomyopathy, left ventricle hypertrophy, all the things that classically lead to, a congestive heart failure.
And we are talking about something that probably could happen even if he wasn't a bodybuilder.
That's correct, because we all hear of the 19-year-old basketball player that drops dead on a court.
Lynn Bias out of Alabama.
Exactly. So we can point to. So keep in mind, let alone it can happen to anybody. Let alone the fact that we're also overlapping a bodybuilding lifestyle in conjunction with something that can happen.
We're typically heavier. We're meat eaters. We have higher cholesterol.
That's correct. So we're layering different variables, which would push the envelope more towards a cardiac situation.
So I think maybe the lesson is that we have to start preaching get your blood work, but get the cardiogram also.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what stage of development you're at.
Yeah, I'm having all my guys. I have other 212 guys, and I have open IFBB 212 guys, and two are massive. And as we speak, they're going to be making appointments with their cardiologist and stuff like that, just because, I want to sleep at night.
So do you think it'd be good to start talking with cardiologists as it relates to our industry and start maybe getting them involved? Like, we have nutritionists.
Yes.
It sounds like a freaking money grab for the cardiologists if they just follow around the bodybuilders.
To be frank with you, I think it's a no-brainer. And when you do see the cardiologist, lay it out on the table.
Yeah,
don't
you gotta
be
be
afraid.
honest.
Just tell them what you're taking.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because honestly, you're only kidding yourselves. If the cardiologist doesn't have information, at least they can explain. Okay, your left ventricle is getting thicker because you're muscular, you're a power athlete, whatever. So at least lay all the variables on the table so that the cardiologist does know what you're working with, and then you guys can come together and formulate a plan, and or at least to be able to have point of reference when you're looking at the imaging results and all that.
Yeah, one of the things I heard, Dave, was that a lot of bodybuilders, they don't get their blood withdrawn. For example, one bodybuilder had a stroke, and he said that he had very thick blood. As a matter of fact, we just recently found out that Randy Couture suffers from a real thick blood, and the clotting and stuff can lead to a heart attack and even a stroke. But they were recommending that you should have your blood withdrawn and maybe even donated to thin it every once in a while, especially if you're using growth hormone.
Yeah, that's one thing. Especially with some of the drugs that are being used in bodybuilding, a lot of these are, things like Anavar and stuff like that. These drugs were made to build blood volume.
Right.
Okay, because people who are, let's say, sickle cell anemia, or people who have low bone marrow production, these drugs are actually prescribed for that. And in someone who does have normal blood counts, they can in fact raise hematocrit levels, red blood cells, and all that stuff, and create the thickening that you were talking about. And for sure, donating, taking a pint out, all that stuff can definitely thin it out. And
taking aspirin, I think, thins it too.
What's really important is a baby aspirin, 81 milligram. You think, only old people do that, but you know what? This really is seriously preventive. And as a matter of fact, cardiologists, some of the top ones, I know some of the top ones, they're saying now that they're speculating now that the baby aspirin doesn't only help people who have already had a cardiac event, but it could also prevent people from having a new one.
Valuable information, and that works for guys and girls, because we also know that. In our industry, with as many people that are involved, there are people on both sides of the fence dropping like flies.
That's correct.
Obviously, the bodybuilders more so than any, but I'd never heard about thinning my blood coming up in the sport in the 90s. But it seems like now with the bodybuilders that are getting really big and athletes that are experimenting with growth hormone and other things,
I mean,
it's a no-brainer.
And let's be real. Let's address the 800-pound elephant in the room. Okay, the protocol that the guys are using for the most part today. I hate saying this, it's scary to say this, but I remember talking to Dorian Yates, for example. And you think, and his protocol back then was, believe it or not, a fraction of what some of the guys are using in the novice class. I mean, who are middleweights. It's scary the way it's evolved.
A lot of them are getting advice from trainers and gurus. Do you think they have a responsibility in this too?
Yes.
They're going to a trainer and a guru who's doubling down on the money for training, but also on the supplements.
Double down on the nutrition and your training. Let's face it here. Your success in bodybuilding is going to depend on your genetic predisposition. These drugs cannot create what you don't have genetically. They can only enhance what you do have genetically.
Correct.
So I hate to say the cliche, but more is not better.
Right.
And it's just not. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the trainers and the gurus, the problem is that they're having the cart in front of the horse. They're putting drugs first instead of the training and the foods.
Well, the flip side of that is that this guy was under your watch. So it was this one that got through the cracks for you and you didn't see the signs, or you just didn't have enough information on him. He didn't share the information with you as a trainer that you could have advised him to get a cardiac or
Exactly.
a cardiogram.
Had I known that he had, been speaking to some people, closer to him, but not as close, let's say the fiance, his fiance or me or some other people, of course, and keep in mind with Daniel, this is someone who low dose protocol. That's the scary part.
He could have won this show tonight, right? He could have. He was going to be in the hunt.
Let's talk. As far as Daniel's potential, which also makes it more gut wrenching. As I was telling you, Sean, earlier, I've literally have been backstage at Arnold Classic, New York Pro, Olympia, Tampa Pro, Orlando, everybody, and I've seen all the 212 guys. And I'm not saying this as his coach. I'm saying this as someone who's seen all those people, and I've never seen anything like this. Not only would he would have won this contest, and to be frank with you, the way he was going, I don't see anybody touching him next year at Olympia. That's a bold statement, but I'm being real here.
And you're going to be giving a little tribute to him tonight. So what are these guys that are not here going to be missing tonight? What's happening when you go up there and talk about Daniel? Look, what are we missing for the people that are not in attendance tonight?
You're going to be missing seeing a really good kid who would have come up here today and shown a phenomenal physique that would have taken people's breath away.
All right, well, Dave, we appreciate your time in the game and helping these athletes achieve their athletic goals, and we look forward to you leading the way in terms of giving these guys the right advice in terms of their health first, training, and competition second.
I'm looking forward to sharing this because we're doing this as people doing this for a passion. You know what I mean? And if you guys are going to do it, let's be safe. You can enjoy the future, but just be safe with it.
How can people interested in finding out more about you and the things that you got going on, where can they reach you?
If you guys want to reach me, you can email me at davekalick@yahoo.com, DAVEKALICK, or hit me up, please, on Facebook and or Instagram.
For Digital Muscle Media, I'm Sean Ray.